Well, this weekend, the Louisville Orchestra presents a special piece that was written in and survived Auschwitz. The one-night-only performance takes place on Holocaust Remembrance Day, also marking the 80th anniversary of Auschwitz's liberation. Music director Teddy Abrams joins us here in studio to share why this work has been a long work in progress and a powerful tribute to resilience. Great to see you.
Thanks so much for having me.
I told you, this is just one that reading through, this is more than a performance. It's more than a rehearsal, more than saying we're just going to do this on this special day. This has really special meaning to you personally and also to the Louisville Orchestra. Tell us about it.
So we are playing an opera. It's called The Emperor from Atlantis, Der Kaiser von Atlantis. And the really extraordinary, beyond belief circumstances under which this opera was written is that the composer named Victor Ullmann composed this piece while he was in a concentration camp. He was in Theresienstadt, or Terezin as it's known, and he composed this full opera. It was rehearsed and almost performed before the Nazi guards realized that actually the opera was a parody of the Nazis and a parody of Hitler, and they said, we're not going to let this thing be performed. So it was not actually played during Ullmann's lifetime, and sadly, he perished in the Holocaust, as did every single person involved in the production except for just two people. Two people escaped the Holocaust, including this young violinist. There was a 14-year-old violinist who was playing in the ensemble for the opera during those rehearsals at the concentration camp. And that young violinist escaped at the end of the Holocaust. There's a harrowing story of how he actually made it out during a death march after he was interned at Auschwitz. And he escaped, retrieved his violin that he'd stored with a neighbor for safekeeping, and then years later made it to the United States, where he became the concertmaster of our Louisville Orchestra. This man's name was Paul Kling. So he was very connected to the Louisville Orchestra.
The concertmaster of the Louisville Orchestra.
That's right, the first violinist. So that's what that means, concertmaster. He's the person that comes out and tunes the orchestra, and he was a legend here in town. He taught many members of the Louisville Orchestra. We still have several people in the orchestra that studied with Paul Kling. And most people didn't know his story at the time. He didn't talk about that because, of course, that's a really dark place to go to. But when I found out that he had played this opera at the concentration camp and then realized that the opera is a total masterpiece, it became a mission of mine to get this piece programmed here in Louisville. It's one of those moments when you realize that
you have to do this.
You have to do it. We had to do it because we realized that our story here in Louisville is connected to global history through little tethers like that. And I felt like this is something that it's a mission. It's a mission to share this music, and the opera, of course, is amazing in and of itself. It's a weird story. It's a fascinating take on a kind of morality play that I'll just give you the very brief synopsis, which is where this crazy emperor, who is a little bit of a Hitler figure, basically commands everybody to keep fighting to the death, and through more and more advanced technologies, to the point that Death himself, who's a big character in the opera, says, "This has gone too far and I quit." So Death just abdicates and nobody can die. So everybody's fighting each other, but nobody can actually die. And they realize that this is even worse, that there has to be a restoration of the natural order. And so then finally the emperor himself submits to death at the very end. And it sounds like this is a really depressing piece of theater, but it's actually not. It's full of biting humor. It's full of little moments of hope.
You said it was created to mock Hitler and the Nazis, and to be writing this and doing this in secret, right? Like, what a sense of self-expression to get through the days.
And it was meant to be performed by Jews who were at this concentration camp for Jews who were interned at this concentration camp. And they didn't need to learn about the Holocaust because they were in the Holocaust. So the opera was meant to be entertaining. It was not meant to be a documentary about the horrible things that were going on. It was actually meant to elicit like a wry laugh or a sense of hope. And that's exactly what this is. It's a masterpiece. And the fact that it's connected to our story here in Louisville, I think just makes it all the more poignant.
You said you've been trying to get this on the stage since, what, 2019?
Oh, yeah. As soon as I found out about that link to the history.
How did you find out about it?
I think a member of our orchestra shared a biography of Paul Kling. He said that he had studied with Paul Kling, and here's a little bit of information that you should know. And then I realized, oh yes, I knew about this opera that had been composed at Theresienstadt concentration camp. I had no idea that there was a connection
put it all
here.
Together. Was it a moment where you're walking around going, we must tell this story? Somebody tell. You mentioned it is an opera, so if you're there watching the performance, talk about like all the elements. Who else will be there, kind of performing with you all?
So we have an incredible cast. These singers are so talented, and then the set and the way we're actually designing it is very special, because it turns out that there was actually a graphic novel adaptation of the opera that came out just last year, published by Dark Horse Comics, and one of the great publishers of comics and graphic novels. And they said to us that we could use all of the images that were in the book to create a set. So I can't tell you how cool this is. There are these scrims and screens that are up where we're projecting the animated versions of the images you would see in the graphic novel, which creates this really extraordinary set. I mean, we are so lucky to have this resource, because it's one of the coolest designs I've ever seen for an opera. And that, combined with the orchestra, combined with the incredible lighting that they're doing, and then this brilliant cast, makes for a really special production. So we hope that a lot of other places around the world are going to want to take this production and present it themselves. But of course, we're doing it here in Louisville first.
As it should begin right here in Louisville. And what an honor that is to his legacy and what he did with the orchestra. That's very special. One night only. One night only. January 25th, 7:30 p.m. And I know you're probably just excited just to bring this to the people.
I am,
you know?
and the music is amazing. That's the thing about it. It's not just a great backstory. The music itself, the drama itself, are exceptional. Like, it's very entertaining. It's a very creative piece. The fascinating music just kind of takes you in all kinds of directions. There's kind of references to jazz. There's kind of harmonic language of Richard Strauss. It's everything in this piece that this incredible man, Victor Ullmann, the composer, could conceive of. And to think that he wrote this all down under the circumstances is really a testament to human resilience and creativity. It's what we do best as people.
Well, I hope not only it will be performed elsewhere around the United States, but just listening to you describe it, I'm hanging on every word. It's like a movie. It's like a series, honestly. It's just, I could see everything you were describing. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like on Saturday, on Holocaust Remembrance Day, on the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. And I thank you so much for coming in to tell us all about it.
Well, thank you. As you can see, we're very excited, and we can't wait to see the whole city.
Want everybody to get on out there. One night only, Saturday, January the 25th at 7:30 p.m. You can purchase your tickets now at LouisvilleOrchestra.org.